Hey, hey, hey.
Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Is it?
Yeah,
It is.
It is.
I went to
You had fun this morning.
Startup Minot networking event downtown Minot.
How was that?
It was good. It's always good to heard from the meat shop, Meat Co. The Meat Co. That's what they're called. Used to be Valley Custom Meats.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Yeah,
I do know that. Okay.
Yeah. Now it's the Meat
I was
Co.
just rolling with it. But okay.
Yeah. So if you need to get some steaks for Mother's Day or whatever, then I guess this is the place to go.
I don't.
You don't? I do.
Fair enough. I love it. I've heard when it was Valley View Meats, I did hear a ton of good things about them.
Valley View?
Or was it Valley View? Was it Valley?
It was Valley something.
Valley something. Yeah, I don't know what.
I don't think it was Valley View.
I had heard about them prior.
Valley View sounds like a neighborhood.
You're probably right.
It's probably just Valley Custom Meats or something.
That sounds right. Yeah. But
Nonetheless,
Jonathan
someone will correct us.
Yes.
It was a good deal. Had a donut. Was good to see people in Minot. Love Minot. Love this place.
Yeah.
You know.
I was doing the daily brief this morning.
Yep, you did great.
I try.
Yeah, that's all you do.
I try every
Greatness
day.
oozes out of what you do.
Yes, all I do is win, no matter what.
Oh man, sorry guys.
Good morning. It is
No,
definitely a Thursday.
Duck in your head. All right, so we have a big announcement that we're gonna make today.
We've been teasing this all
But
week.
We're gonna wait before break.
Yeah,
We'll let it sit there.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll let it sit. We'll around 9:20 we'll make that announcement.
It is a massive announcement that I am incredibly excited for.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about what's on the agenda.
Our agenda?
Run down the agenda. What are we talking about today?
We're going to dive into a little recap of the legislative wrap up. They finished up at the end of last week, and with all the Minot stuff going on, we haven't really had a chance to dissect it a little bit. So we're going to touch on a lot of that.
We also will be getting legislators on to talk about their decisions.
Now that they're all done and wrapped up, we'll get a good chance to speak.
We reached out to a couple, and timing didn't work. But to be fair, this is the week where they're going back to their lives. So honestly, I kind of even felt bad reaching out because hey guys, just enjoy this week. Whether that means going back to work, whatever it might mean, your regular job.
Yeah.
Because you definitely did work for the last few months. So we'll be working on that. But we are going to break down some things. And then there's something bad going on in North Dakota.
That's what I was just going to say. Talk about Williston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Dude, it's been a rough week. We've had wildfires just
all over
dramatically.
Like Belcourt just got burned up in the Turtle Mountains. That was nuts.
Yeah,
and there was some stuff by Mandaree and Van Hook. Yeah. Bunch of stuff around Sakakawea. But it's been wicked dry out. Like as soon as we get rain, it just gets windy as all get up, and it's been hot.
We're trying to grow grass right now. What a pain. What an absolute pain.
Grass is never fun to cooperate with. It always likes to be tricky for you, I've heard.
Yeah. Well, when it's dry, it doesn't help.
Really doesn't help at that point. And we've been having some really dry weather lately. But like you were saying, Williston with a little bit of a measles outbreak. Yeah. I think there's 4 confirmed cases. And
I thought it was more than that, but yeah.
Or maybe it's up to 9. I could be
right.
wrong.
I believe it's up to 9.
I think you're right. And anyways, now that one of the kids that was infected was at school, and so now Williston Public Schools is quarantining unvaccinated kids for 3 weeks. So they're pretty much going to miss the end of the school year. It's a crazy, so just to not trying to fearmonger, because to be fair, the survivability rate of this has been less than, or 99 point some odd %. So odds of anything bad happening aren't great. However, it's still never good to see something that was effectively extinct in the state for well over a decade come back.
Right.
And shout out to Williston, Williams County. Hope everything's going well out there. We will definitely keep an eye on it from a distance.
Why did it come back?
From what I read, I think one of the initial group of people that got infected were visited by someone that was contagious or contaminated or sick themselves. Then when that person went back out of state, lo and behold, the measles stayed up here with them. And the kids must have went to school or visited family members. They came in contact with some other people, and it spread a little bit. And now it's getting to a point where we're hearing words we haven't heard in 3-4 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Poor Williams County.
Yeah, poor Williams County.
Especially this time of year, it's getting nice. It's beautiful out. Everyone wants to go outside.
Not the only thing under attack. Another thing that's under attack is our website.
Yeah.
So legitimately, we've been talking with our server company, and they're what keeps happening is there's brute force attacks that are going against the site, and that's why sometimes it's knocked offline. Yeah.
We're getting hacked?
Well, I don't know about hacked, but I guess it's a form of that. But
wow, this is news to me. This is breaking news, folks.
So if you were having trouble accessing our website for like last week, it's been a little bit spotty.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. We're getting to the bottom of it. So it'll be fixed. But
by chance you were trying to check out the Daily Brief right away at 6 a.m. this morning, my apologies, because last night at about 11 when I was trying to get the article posted, the website was all screwy. So finally got it up this morning when I got the video posted.
Way to go. Yeah, I believe it's just went down again, but it's all right. We'll be working on it.
We're going to make it happen. If you're out there hacking us,
appreciate the attention. Yes. Just make sure you're subscribed.
Come to studio, square up, see what happens.
No, I don't want to square up. I just want to make sure you're subscribed. So
well, yeah, we're almost at 800 subs on YouTube. That means we're almost at 1,000 when we get those numbers. That's going to be awesome, dude.
Yep. That's going to be what will happen. What will change when we get those numbers is we'll come back here for another indie talk. Yes. We'll come back here for another Minot talk, and it'll be business as usual.
And I'll do a little dance. Maybe I'll dab.
But anyways, all right. So measles outbreak in the state. All right, let's hit the
the meat of it.
Yeah, let's hit the legislative roundup, man.
$20.3 billion budget.
This is huge.
It is. It is an increase from last year's like 19.8 or it was just a hair under 20 billion last year. The caveat to it is a balanced budget, so we're not like operating in a deficit, which North Dakota hasn't done in like 30 years or something, but no worries on that front. It's a $20.3 billion budget for 25 through 27. Yeah, it's a 3.5% increase over the previous cycle. And I think one of the big things that was passed at the end was the property tax bill. After all this time,
yeah, dude, the property tax bill. What a journey that thing went on.
So many,
because the 1176 was the one that passed. Yeah, this was the governor's bill. Yep. Has been the
one that's been talked about the most from the start, and it passed.
What was the original amount it was supposed to be?
Was it 1,400 or 1,200?
No, it was either 1,550.
It was 1,550. Yeah, yep, it was 1,550,
and it's going to go up from there.
Yeah,
and then they're like, no.
Then they asked it to like 1,100.
That's going to be too much money, so we need it down to 1,450. Mm-hmm. And then a local senator said no. 12. It was either 1,200 or 1,250, and it caps out at 75%.
Yep.
Skin in the game.
That was the skin in the game. That was such a big thing late in the session down there.
And then out of nowhere, it goes up higher than it was originally going to be, up to 1,600.
Yeah, and then the like 75% skin in the game is gone.
It's gone. What a journey that thing went on.
So
I'm curious though, for anyone listening to this, whenever you're listening to it, what's your thoughts on it?
Also, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Yes, we appreciate it. But what's your thoughts on it? Is this? I think almost everybody agrees this is not the solution. This is simply a step at best, right?
One thing I want to give it some props.
Do it.
It is legitimate relief. There are people that will get legitimate relief.
But this is a line that you've been going down.
Yeah,
because you've been going and complimenting it on being relief, but you've been calling it out for not being reform.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
So it's your backhanded compliment you've been giving it.
I'm good at that.
Well, congrats. You're good at it. But and that's fine. I'm not criticizing for that, but I was just like,
it is what you're very
separating
much right.
the two things.
Yes, because I want to give it props before we start ripping into it a little bit.
Yeah,
because there will be people that will get legitimate relief from this. This will cover a vast majority. In some specific cases, this will cover their entire property tax bill.
Yeah, in some specific cases.
Yes, not a lot, but in some for sure. And a lot of $1,600 matters to someone that pays $3,000 for it.
And it goes back to the argument that Lauser made of how does this affect the housing market? Yeah.
And that's something that we're going to have to wait and see.
So you have a few things. First off, Governor Armstrong feels like this is great because it gets help to the people that theoretically would need it the most. And that's assuming that everybody that is paying $1,600 in property taxes are on limited budgets. That's basically what his assumption is when he makes that statement, which is fine. I'm not trying to cast derogatory remarks at that statement. I'm just saying that's
the line of thinking.
Right, that's the line of thinking. Laws are saying, okay, wait a minute though.
Hold up.
If you had to go, like if you were going to buy a house and you're going to have to pay property taxes, or you're in one that you don't have to pay property taxes, how does that what does that do? Also, how does that affect home values? Does that mean that home values increase a little bit for properties that don't have to pay property taxes? Because wait a minute, like, yeah, it's a little bit more than it was, but understand you're going to save, let's see, $125 or something like that a month. Well, actually be $150 a month.
Yeah, technically.
And I don't know. So
it's one of those, I think so much is going to have to wait and see with that over the next year.
Yeah.
Sorry, just got really. Anyways, something's going to have to change with that over the next year to really see where that goes to. And I don't know how they're going to end up really playing it out, because one thing that, obviously the big thing that is supposed to be the reform is the 3% cap on city budgets.
Yep.
And that's the part that we've kind of hammered from the start. Obviously, the city of Minot, from the get-go, was against that happening, and I understand why. And so much reason, too, isn't necessarily for Minot itself. It's for a lot of those smaller communities. Like big cities like Minot, Bismarck, Fargo, Grand Forks, Dickinson, Williston aren't going to be as impacted because generally speaking now, it's pretty much a guaranteed 3% budgetary increase every year.
Yeah.
At least for the next 2 years.
Right. So I think that's the thing that, like, the next 2 years, so we really had to watch this, and it'll be highly speculated on and then scrutinized next legislative session, because obviously the goal is that this continues to expand. And I think if that happens, generally, like, I don't think I agree personally with the route that we're going down for this, but generally I think people would be happy if it was expanded upon.
And you can eventually get to reform through this.
Yeah, you can, right. And so with that being the goal, I think that can be united behind, right?
Yeah.
And somebody's going to be unhappy with the route that we take. So that's not a problem, as long as it doesn't hurt the state in the long run.
Yeah, 100% there. And the thing that I'm questioning on for the smaller communities, is it going to hurt them in the long run? Especially because
with the cap.
Yeah, with that cap. Like, are they going to be able to do specific projects without special assessing things or asking the state for grant money? Like, if a road needs to be torn up and replaced in Glenburn, how are they going to end up doing that? Are they going to just go to the state and ask the state DOT for a grant loan for it? Or are they going to end up trying to special assess half the city and put that onto their plate and have to deal with it?
Right.
That's where a lot of that question for me comes from.
Yeah.
And I'm not positive if that's the most healthy thing for those smaller communities, because in Minot, it's not ideal. It's going to hamstring us, but you're already seeing David Lakefield and the city manager budget this out ahead. They're already planning this into the long term.
Honestly, this is my personal opinion on this. I think that probably Minot is, I don't know that anybody's like perfectly set up for this, but we're in a good spot for it. Yeah. We got good players in the game, on the city staff that are going to be able to manage this well. We have a little bit of reserves that we don't want to use because of tight budgets, but that in a worst case, as we figure this out, we could figure it out.
We can dip into them if it was needed.
Yep. And then last, we weren't pushing our property tax rates and stuff like that. So we were already being
mindful with the mills.
Yeah. Everybody was being mindful. So I think that we're in a decent spot. I know that other cities across North Dakota were, they were already feeling pressure about some of the things. So, like, when you look at the caps, like, there's probably gonna be other cities that are gonna be impacted worse than us by that. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because eventually there's going to be a budget item. There's going to be something that's going to push the cap. Like, you can't always live in a budget where you're going backwards.
Like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Eventually you have to stop decreasing.
Yep. On the big picture, economies can happen or can go into a downturn, and you have to tighten things, and you have to spend a little bit more on some specific things that you didn't prior.
Right.
And vice versa. When those things grow, you can then cut back a little bit. And we're in kind of an in-between stage right now with all that.
And once you do cutbacks, it's hard to keep cutting back. Like, you got the easy stuff to cut off. Now what?
And that was last year.
And
now they have a little bit more that they're going to be able to trim this year.
Potentially, but it's going to be a little hard.
It is. And then after this year, though, that's when it's really going to be a different ball game at that point.
It'll be interesting to see how those conversations play out. I know the state didn't exceed the 3% threshold on their budget, although they're in the millions. Or billions. Yeah, my bad. Wrong letter. They're in the billions. And so when they don't increase by 3%, that percentage is a lot more. That so I think it was just under 3%, which I think they were happy about because they didn't go above the cost of inflation or whatever.
Yeah, they were under the whatever the CPI or whatever it is. Yeah, and I don't know. It is relief for a lot of people, but again, as we've hammered throughout the entire session, it doesn't feel like real reform. And wherever Leif's can is, it is just continuing to be kicked down the road. Oh, he's got it even. The 1176 can. I love it.
That being said, something else that's pointed out by Alderwoman Lisa Olson is that the homestead tax credit was also expanded.
Yeah.
And this is good as well.
Great point. Yep.
So there are good things that came out of it. This is not a live stream today where we're just bashing everything that the legislative session did. But I will say the feedback that I've heard, and it could just be the people I talked to, is that they didn't feel like there was much action taken. And that's an interesting deal. I don't know what the action people wanted taken. Yeah. Because obviously there's bills that are passed and some of them are just necessary ones you have to pass. Some of them which it was called historic. And it was historic. And there's a couple others that we'll talk about, but going and the takeaways that you've seen sometimes in the comments is like, yeah, we passed a speed limit bill on tinting.
They don't do nothing ever. Yeah. And it's like to be fair,
come on guys. So
yeah, they did a lot.
They
had to go through 1,100 bills.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about a few more of those in a moment, but it's 9:20.
Uh-oh. That means we're going to an ad. Wait, no. We're going to, it was the teaser time. Yeah,
teaser time.
Go ahead, Jonathan. I'll let you do it.
All right, so we've been working on something, and it looks like we're about to pull it off. We're going to have more details released on this next week, but we wanted to get this out there as early as possible. We are going to host a live, in-person mayoral debate.
Yes, it's going to be next month at some point.
June 17th.
Okay, we do have the date set.
We're going to go June 17th. We're not quite sure the location. We've been in talks.
A couple that we're going between.
We're trying to get that hammered out next week. And so as soon as we have that, we'll have that announced. But it's going to be the evening of June 17th. We're looking at having something start around 6 p.m. There'll
have
be
a little, for lack of better words, mixer event.
Yes, no alcohol. No. It's going to be a family-friendly event.
Yep. And it is open to the public. It will be free of charge.
Free of charge, yep.
So please come out. We'll get all the details out there in probably the next week or two.
Yep.
But we want to see as many people there as possible.
We've reached out to candidates. The majority have committed. We're waiting on some finalizations there. And then we are reached out to the venues getting that. So we should have a lot of those details finalized next week. Yep. But we just wanted to get the word out there. Live, in person, mayoral debate. It's going to be a good time. Yep. I think like we've went down this road before and the word debate like stands out. We're not looking when the debate forum for what we want to do, I think is too weak of a word. Debate is a little bit too strong of a word. It's going to be somewhere in the middle on this. We're not looking for these mic drop moments that have been tried to be created at national stages. That's not what we're trying to create.
We're looking for some form of open discussion between the candidates, but without them stepping completely on top of each other.
What we've really enjoyed here is the unfiltered conversations that we've had. We need to get one of those going again because those are a lot of fun where there's just a stopwatch where you get to talk on the subject until that's over. But for a setting like this, we can't have that happen. Because
there has to be some level of
there's more at stake than just someone's opinion, and so there has to be a little more control.
Which we'll announce who will be moderating at some point too.
Yeah.
No guarantees it's us.
Yeah,
we might reach out to some special people and figure out, or it might be us too.
Yeah,
never know.
We're finalizing a lot of details still, but
June
17th, we're gonna be having a hosting a mayoral debate. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah,
we want it to be an experience that you think about when you leave.
Want it to be more than just a debate. Want it to try to be like a community event so everyone can get out, everyone can see the candidates, maybe have a chance to mingle with them before or after, and then obviously be able to sit and watch the debate as well.
Yeah, so if there's something that would stand out to you as being something that you would want to see or have a part of that experience, let us know and we'll consider integrating that into the whole experience.
Do our darndest, man. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, for sure. So that's exciting. We'll have more information on that coming out today and then next week.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Sounds good.
I'm so excited. One of my big things since we started here is I wanted to be a part of a debate. So
it's going to happen. And I think it was already said, but it's going to be live in person, but it'll also be live streamed as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So it'll be done both ways.
To watch it YouTube, Facebook for sure, probably X as well. And we're working on maybe setting up some other routes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. We are going to go to a break now. We'll go to the break a little bit early after that. And then
back to state.
We'll be back to some state stuff.
In the demanding world of oil and gas, precision, safety, and efficiency are non-negotiable. Unmanned operator drone services revolutionizes how you monitor, inspect, and manage your operations. With cutting-edge technology and expert operators, we deliver real-time data, detailed reports, and actionable insights for our valuable clients. Why risk the safety of your team or waste precious time? Our drones access even the most challenging areas with ease, reducing downtime and enhancing safety across your sites. We take the guesswork out of your projects by offering LiDAR, mapping, and inspection services so that your projects stay safe, on budget, and on time. Unmanned operator drone services, where technology meets safety, precision, and efficiency. Contact us today to elevate your operations. Yes, pun intended.
Enjoy Minot's finest authentic Mexican cuisine with a view at Mi Mexico. The rooftop patio is open and ready for you to enjoy a margarita or other cool refreshment along with genuine mouth-watering Mexican entrees. Mi Mexico, South Broadway.
Well, did you notice something with that ad break?
Dude, you're such a dude. Yeah, I did notice something.
Mi Mexico. If you folks haven't checked them out, South Minot, great chance, right off Broadway, right by Walmart. Fantastic food there.
Great group of people there.
It is.
Good family
business.
business.
They got the new rooftop section opened up, ready to roll. So if you want to get some great food, eat it outside, make sure you check out Mi Mexico.
Yeah, and they also are connected to the Lopez boxing gym on North Hill. That's like one of those overlooked things in Minot.
Yeah. I didn't know that even. Look at that.
Did you know that there was a boxing gym?
Yes, I did know. Yeah, I did know that.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, and that's just one of those overlooked things of mine. We're gonna go probably have some people on from that gym. I think that might be kind of interesting.
It would be fun. I'd love to do that. I look forward
for sure.
to it.
All right, so back to state stuff. All right, just top three bills that you were excited about
in total.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
That I was excited past, or that I was most interested in. Most interested?
No, I think we're going to do it both sides. So past and then something that you wish they would have taken care of.
I liked the speed limit one.
Really?
I'm fine with the speed limits going up. Everyone's speed goes 80.
What about the fines that got attached to it?
It's part of the deal. I'm not opposed. North Dakota already has pretty lax speed limit laws, so I'm not.
So you're fine with government expanding there? Okay.
Stop. I accept that it has to happen as a concession for higher speed limits. I accept that as a mediating ground. Another one that I thought was really interesting was the expansion, or the new announcement of a hospital in Jamestown. It's going to be a $300 million budget that's going towards it from the state. Jamestown's going to be getting a new hospital, state hospital built, and it's going to have 140 beds and an acute mental health service facility. So that's something I'm really interested in as well. And then, one other one, what was it? 2296, I think it was the one that is auditing commerce that will be taking place over the next couple of years.
Pass?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's a much lesser degree than it was originally started.
It got stripped now.
Yeah, but I look forward to seeing how that plays out in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm just going to duplicate everything you said.
Good. Do it.
No, I'm glad that action was taken on property taxes. That's the most, that's the one that stands out the most, I think, to everybody. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely happy that there was some action taken there. The speed limit one, I'm not as much of a fan of on you. I'm happy the one that you pulled out, the commerce one. I didn't realize that one passed. I thought that one was going to fail, but it got stripped down, mm-hmm. and that's basically what happened there. Mm-hmm. So that was good. Let's see. The other one, I'm just happy that the ones that I was excited about ended up failing or getting vetoed, because the education savings account, I was kind of excited that there was something going on there, which will make some people not like me. The term limits, I was sad that one passed. So yeah, I'm gonna go with 2. I'm going to cop out.
That's fine. I got one that I don't like very much, and I think we've hammered it pretty well on this, but HB 1318, the pesticides bill, that is one that I was not a fan of. Again,
right. No, that was one that was on my list for the upset about.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one we can agree on.
So basically that one, it appears to give cover to pesticide companies. So that way there's less chance of liability, lower liability.
Yeah. And it doesn't directly, but it almost leaves a route open to then go after the farmers that are spraying said pesticides on the field next to your house rather than the manufacturer of said pesticide. It leaves some, ground room for them to be a little bit protected, but largely it's it leaves the door at least partially open.
Yep.
Don't love that one. 1318, we've already discussed that one pretty well in depth.
Yep.
Excuse me, not 1318, 1176 we've discussed in depth with the property tax.
You were not happy about that one?
Not in general, no. I wanted to see real reform where they actually went.
No, I agree with you.
How they actually went after, where they would actually go after possibly how the mills are assessed and also the property value assessment as well. I think if you put a cap on how high a property can be valued or changed in an assessment per year, I think that would have been more of a reform than putting a cap on the city's budgetary expenses. However, that obviously can then, now you have the state stepping in and saying that you can only raise property values by a certain amount too.
We need government where we want it.
Yeah, exactly. Do as I say, not as I do.
I agree. Not fully loving how it went down, but I think that there is a step, and I think that hopefully a massive step. That's a massive step right there, I think. So that's where I stand on that one.
It is a big step.
I'll give you a couple. I wished term limits. I wish that didn't happen.
Fair.
I wish that didn't go back on the ballot. Although it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Here's the deal. If people honestly feel like it was mismarketed, that, because I had a conversation with somebody this week and they're like, well, it'll be interesting to see once the federal people term out. And it's like, well, the term limits doesn't apply to that. And there's a lot of people that have the understanding that this applies to Hovind, and this applies to Kramer, and this applies to Fedorchak, and it doesn't.
They thought it was a federal thing.
And that was due to the marketing of it. So if is a high majority of people that feel that way, then I think it's fair for it to come on the ballot, and it's still in a limited way, and people can fully understand what this is going to apply to. It'll be interesting to see if it passes, because already you were getting these weird vibes, to use your word, out of the legislature this time around, where they're like, almost felt like, you know what, I'm going to be out of here soon enough anyway, so we're just going to go.
Like, what's it matter?
It felt like that happened a few times.
Like, oh, you want us to be out? Well, here you go. Throw it back at them then.
Right.
Yeah. And gosh, something else is going to be on the ballot too. What was it? Oh, the change of the constitutional requirements.
Yeah, I think that's terrible.
Yeah, because last year in 2024, they had like a conglomerate of like 4 different things all in one thing, and now they're piecemealing it, and they're sending a couple different things back to the ballot. So this one, it would require a 60% threshold for a constitutional amendment to change. Also, funny story, all it needs is a 50.1% threshold to pass and become law. That's an interesting little thing. You think they would maybe throw a caveat in there that, hey, if this is going to become law, it should at least stand up to what it will require everything following it at that point.
Right, yeah.
That'll be on the ballot next fall too.
Yeah, that one will be.
And
education savings accounts, term limits, HB 1318. Those are the 3 things that I wish would have worked out differently. What do you think is there any bill that or maybe it was a bill that got voted out very early, or that you just wish that they would have taken care of this legislative cycle? I don't know that I really had any priorities myself. I think property tax was probably the biggest one.
That was the biggest one for me, for a fact. And also it was 2396, not 2296.
Did it right.
For the, NEDF bill. But that one that one passed, so I'm happy with that. Gosh.
Yeah. I don't know that there was really much for me.
No, I think so much of it, again, and we've harped on this throughout the year, it's just the sheer volume of things that came to be. Like, it just felt unnecessary with a lot of the stuff that was out there. You have, the culture war bills that were, and not even bills, resolutions.
It's so unnecessary. We've hammered on those. They're so unnecessary.
That's my biggest thing. It's just, it felt like so many people just wanted to have their say in these things, and it wasn't actually something that needed to be done.
I'll say things that are interesting, like the efforts to improve North Dakota campaign financing, that reporting, it failed.
Yeah.
Some of these things, it's interesting how they fail, and they are they have to go through the legislature to get passed, but it affects them, and they typically fail when it happens that way.
Gosh, what was the other one?
The legislature removed $50 million in state funding for Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. That was interesting.
That was. So there is the part of me that is a history nerd and wants to see this happen yesterday. However, there's the other part of me that says this has already gotten how much money allocated to it from the state government and will now also be getting some allocation from the feds. Does the state really need to keep pumping more money into it? Probably not. However, I do want to see that happen. So I'm very conflicted on that from personal bias versus where my principles stand. That one, I'll be open on that one.
the veto on the by the governor, obviously, on the state employee health insurance, I had a problem with that. I talked about it at the time, but I had a problem with that. That was something that he should not have vetoed. Not even talking about that because of I cared or didn't care about the bill, because that's not really what that comes down to. It's just they decided to do this. Why are you vetoing this? It just felt like a weird place for him to be stepping in.
One other one that I loved too, on a separate note, this is on an energy kind of one. North Dakota is going to do a couple of big studies over the next year and a half on focusing on how geothermal and nuclear energy could be better developed in the state. That is something I'm really looking forward to see how those turn out, and I would really love to see North Dakota become maybe not a leader, but at least a player in the game of nuclear energy.
So when they do a study, does that mean that that's just all going to go to die? Because that's why I hear.
Probably. There's a fair chance that nothing actually comes of it, but I think it has the potential to be a great first step in the process of expanding our energy production. Because here's one thing: if you could end up getting, like, whether it be geothermal or, because obviously we do the wind thing, and that's not nearly efficient enough to do what I'm about to propose. You get a really good geothermal plant, or you get a couple of nuclear reactors that are generating enough electrical power where you can take so much of this, of your natural gas and oil production that gets turned into electricity, and you're able just to now export that and take it and just make it into pure profit for the legacy fund effectively.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I would love to see that happen.
Right. Yeah. Go and start at some.
But then, obviously there's a lot of caveats to it and everything, but I would love to see that happen in the long run.
Yeah. Let's see. There's something else that I had. In rehashing the legislative session, you also had it was a difficult, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, a difficult session on health.
Yeah, it was.
It was sad.
Genuinely, it was.
There was one representative that passed away, and then there was another one that was hospitalized. Was there a third one that was hospitalized? I cannot remember.
I know there's a lot of people that ended up getting sick up there, down there, and it's really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, it is.
On top of whatever outside forces there might be, I think it just shows that this puts a great deal of stress on these people that are down
there's two. There was Casper and there was Weber.
Yeah, you're right. And it puts a big deal of stress on these people. You have to take months out of your life to go down to Bismarck and set legislative priorities with only getting the weekends off, and in those weekends you have to, a lot of times, like in Minot, you have the forums you got to go to on Saturday,
and you have to figure out what you're talking about next week.
You got to be ready. You got to stay prepped. You might have like 12 hours a week where you don't have to worry about it.
Those That's are when you're sleeping, because you don't get much sleep that week.
Exactly. It's between Saturday and Sunday night.
So
Saturday night and Sunday morning.
That's hard.
One other one too that was interesting was the Prairie Public funding. There was a big talk about how that was going to get cut, and it largely did. So it was Armstrong proposed $2.9 million for it. It ended up getting reworked. It wasn't totally cut, but it's now getting only $400,000.
How does that work? Like, do you feel, how involved should the state be in media? And I know that they do a lot. It was at first, basically this synopsis was like, they shouldn't be. So we're going to cut them. And then like, wait a minute. Before you do that, realize some of the stuff that we're providing is a service for North Dakota. Yeah. Like some of the towers and things like that, it's communication. Yeah. And the state needs to be able to communicate with its citizens. Yeah. 1,000%. So like that, it's an interesting line right there. Because then you also have them, they've went and moderated state.
Every debate, every statewide race in the last 15 years has effectively had a debate through Prairie Public. Whether it be Dave Thompson or Matt O'Lean that host it.
Right. So how do you feel about that? You know, it's kind of a weird deal when it's being funded by the state.
Because you don't want to have that state any kind of bias coming into it. You want it to be as nonpartisan and as independent as it can be. However, when it's getting state subsidies, they are going to at least indirectly lean towards supporting state business at times.
Yep, and they get subsidies from other places as well.
Exactly. Yeah,
or not subsidies. They get ad money. They get ad money. I'm sure they get. Get donations and all that.
Exactly.
They get supporters and all that.
I remember growing up at the end of the PBS show. Then this show is brought to you by sponsors like you at home. And I was like 6-year-old me watching it.
And you're like, yeah, it's me. Yeah, I don't remember that. I didn't remember that at all.
Fair enough. You weren't a PBS kid.
Okay.
I grew up from the PBS kid into the PBS and the Ken Burns.
But that was a point that a lot of people made. It's like, wait a minute. Like, also, if we don't fund this, like, this is affecting things that was part of people's lives.
Yeah. One thing that is biggest for me is some of the in my opinion, purely my opinion, some of the highest quality, both political and cultural documentaries that are out there that are being produced, at least on some consistent basis, come from Prairie Public and PBS. And like you have the Ken Burns documentary series. He does something every few years that is fantastic work that comes out. And you have consistently PBS putting out things on timely subjects and also historical subjects that come out consistently on PBS. Yeah. Again, I don't love the government paying for stuff like this, but you got to look at the work they do and see that it's legitimately objective for the most part. You can argue that maybe PBS's news might skew one way, but you look at the documentary work they do, and it's stuff that you can't get from anyone else, largely speaking.
So that was a good find there, for sure.
And one other interesting little caveat, we can break down a couple more bills, but before this is on my mind right this second. They ended session a little early.
Yeah,
they saved, I think,
6 days,
5 or 6 days. Yeah, at the end of it too.
They're like, we're coming back.
Yeah, because odds are, with the way the feds are set up right now and how things are transpiring at the national level, they're going to need to come back to reassess some things in this summer. We had Marvin Nelson on, was it 2 weeks ago? He said, in his opinion, he expected probably at least 2 special sessions.
Yeah, and that brings me into another point, because this is an article that's recently coming out. Transit agencies across the United States are facing significant challenges due to the impending expiration of federal COVID-19 relief funds. And obviously, it's going to be difficult probably to get some of those back. So the financial shortfall threatens to lead to substantial cuts in bus and rail services, affecting both major cities and smaller towns. The reduction in services could initiate a death spiral where decreased ridership leads to further revenue losses and additional service cuts. Of course, agencies are looking for other funding sources. And I know like mine probably would have been semi-affected by this, depending on the route that we went with that electric bus and all that. Yeah, I know that's a whole another topic I'm not trying to get into the middle of, but that's a local deal where it's going to be a federal grant money that was going to be, I don't know if it was COVID-19 relief funds, probably not. But right now, that's not the only, the point is that's not the only thing that is suffering from federal cuts. Obviously, there was the local deal a couple of weeks ago where MSU announced that there was several over 20 jobs that were going to be
2 dozen.
cut. Yeah, almost 2 dozen, my bad. Yeah. So that were being cut. So a lot of people are starting to feel these cuts happen, and
it's happening. It's coming for better or for worse. It's hitting home.
It is, and so that's gonna be really interesting to see how that plays out. It's one of those deals I'm not wanting to walk into the middle of that. Maybe we'll discuss that one day more in depth.
Maybe next week we'll find someone to talk to about it. We'll see how it goes. See what it kind of keeps transpiring into. We've talked behind the scenes to a couple people about it, and we're looking how we're going to play it out on our end. But one other thing that also is good that I wanted to mention that I forgot for things that are going to be on the ballot box next fall, there was another one too, and it goes back to that 4 or 5 line items deal that they ended up piecemealing into this next session. It's going to be if there should be a single item proposed on a constitutional amendment, or if it can be omnibused as it currently is. Yeah. That one is interesting. I understand where it's coming from. I don't know if I love it, but I do understand why it would be there to make things more simplified and straightforward. However, when you're doing constitutional amendments, sometimes there has to be some nuance to it. So I'm not sure. That one I'm not sure how I'm going to go. I'm pretty well at this point, year and a half out, know where I'm going to go on the other two at this stage. That one I don't know at this point. That's right. I got, lo and behold, I got a lot of time to figure it out though.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Yeah. Crazy stuff for sure.
Gosh. And anything else you got on the state wrap up?
No, those are the biggest things. Oh, I think it's worth noting. This has been documented. It's been released. Stuff on the website. There is a legislator that resigned.
Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about that on the show, have we?
No.
Yeah. Representative Jeremy, we might have mentioned it in passing when he left his caucus seat, but yeah, Representative Jeremy Olson from Arnegard originally stepped down last Tuesday from his House caucus leadership position, citing, time away from family and his job constraints and things like that. Fast forward, there were some rumors kind of floating around behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And fast forward to the end of session, and lo and behold, turns out there was a harassment complaint that was filed against him, and he ended up resigning his legislative seat entirely at that point.
Yeah.
And he was just elected last year.
I have opinions on this.
Are you going to share them?
I'll try to be careful. First off, sounds like the harassment complaint is pretty legit. I've heard it from several different sources, and we'll leave it mostly at that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it sounds this wasn't an isolated incident.
Yeah, who knows there?
Can't guarantee anything.
But the biggest that's not even the point of it for me. All that stuff is gonna be worked out there. It's just a bummer. Like we reached out to Legislative Council on Thursday of last week to see if there was any formal complaints that were filed. We were told no, there weren't. And there was one filed. I don't know the date, so I'm not saying that we were told wrong. But it would have been Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday.
Like Thursday evening or Friday through Monday morning.
Right, is when it got filed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting I don't know that there was, if the complaint was slow played or anything like that. I don't have any knowledge there, so I'm not alleging that. But it's interesting how he resigns the seat, his caucus seat,
mm-hmm.
and then he resigns his full-on position after the session.
Yeah,
it almost felt like it was the timeline was set up so that way they did not have to deal with this during session.
It feels like there's a possibility that could have happened. And just on the heels of everything else that's been coming out on similar parallels to that with the Holmberg case, not saying there's any connection to it, but just the generalities.
Yep. Not alleging any connection to
that. But just saying that they both have some similar parallels in them on where they stem from.
Yeah, but I will say this, because one of the big things with that is not, because what they did is two different things. What we don't know for sure. It's just a complaint. So the alleged here of obviously Holmberg is a deal. He's been tried in court.
Yeah, he's been
with Olson. There's just a complaint that was filed, and then he resigned his seat.
Yeah.
Okay. So two different things, completely different things,
wholly separate.
One of the key things though in any of these that go on
mm-hmm.
is that there's a feeling that people don't speak out. That there's this club down in the politics of Bismarck and North Dakota, where when somebody is doing something that is over the line wrong,
mm-hmm.
Going too far, that people don't speak out against it. And this time there were people that were like, hey man, I just don't feel right about this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is an area where this is a time where we should be speaking up,
mm-hmm.
because they don't want that to happen again. I think that's a good thing.
I agree. I hope it continues to stay that way too.
Yeah.
Because in the last week, since this has all transpired, you've seen a lot of pressure from the statewide
mm-hmm.
industries, I guess I'll say, that have been pushing against this for both the individual and the Republican Party themselves, to make sure that this is something that gets cleaned up a little bit better.
Right. Yeah. And that needs to happen.
Yep.
For sure.
Continue the transparency with it.
Increase the transparency for sure. Yeah.
Keep on the track you're on, but don't let it slack.
And I think there could have been potentially more that was done here,
mm-hmm.
most likely, because the timeline is still a little bit weird. But I think that the others around it this time are like, hey, like we're going to push leadership. We're going to push
mm-hmm.
the place to be. And we don't know the full process, not trying to
not by any stretch
allege anything.
We haven't seen the harassment report. I can't guarantee anything with that. Don't even know for sure what it says. So just generalities on that one.
For sure.
A little interesting caveat then to replace that seat. I believe, if I remember right, the district has 21 days to find someone on their own.
Gotcha.
And if they don't, then they can signal either A, ask for the governor to appoint someone, or B, signal for a special election.
Gotcha. Those special elections, they'll get you.
Yeah, right? It's going to be a good time. Look forward to next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we got a special election next month. That one is, what is that one? That one is property tax
yes.
one. Yeah.
Through the Park District, which I feel like we got some time, might as well discuss that a little bit. It's a countywide issue.
Do it.
So yeah, it's June 2nd is going to be the election date for that. It is to raise Minot's sales tax by 0.5%, and that 0.5% will go to the Park District to be effectively a replacement for the majority of their revenue that comes from property taxes. And not all of it. Some of it will be, grandfathered in. A lot of stuff that's already bonded out will continue to be on their roll. However, this will be largely a replacement for the majority of their property tax revenue. And the reasoning behind it is, since the parks are used by people that aren't just from Minot, it's a, community thing, that it should be something that is paid for more so by the community. I'm not endorsing it one way or the other, just this is the logic behind it, that everybody uses it, so everybody should have a way to pay into it a little bit.
Critics say that this is the most unfair way because the people that are struggling just get a little bit harder.
The most. Yeah, and that's a fair point. Sales taxes do affect the lowest income the most directly, and so that's a legitimate argument for it, and it's a equity versus fairness kind of thing almost, to a certain extent. Who should be the ones that are paying for it? And on top of that, then you can argue, is 8% sales tax in Minot too high? It feels like it's pushing it, but hopefully with NAS wrapping up this year, that can help with that. I mean, it probably won't lower anything, but I guess at least money could be better allocated, or more allocated more fairly to more things that are a lot more pressing to the now. And I think that's still set to be finished in like July, if I'm right. That NAS will be a good thing to get done.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So very, very cool. School lunches didn't make your list of bills. You didn't
have that probably.
Yeah, you probably that was one that you weren't very happy about.
Over that, I don't love that. That's something I think the Legacy Fund should pay for.
Yeah,
but maybe 2 years from now.
Maybe 2 years from now.
I think it's one of those things that'll pass eventually. Like, there's a few things that'll.
Yeah, marijuana.
That one, you got the school stuff.
Education savings accounts, that'll pass.
Good chance that'll end up passing, with every other state having it. I think if not 2 years from now, next decade, it'll probably
next
pass.
Governor.
Good.
You vetoed. It did pass.
It did.
Got vetoed.
It passed both houses. And the governor said, big old stamp.
He said, go find another one. And then they said, nope.
Here, do this one instead. And they said, no, we don't want that one.
Which I think, you know what? Like, I think he knew that the other one probably had less of a chance of passing. And so he's like, I don't want this. But if I say I support that one,
then they'll really.
I don't know if I really think that, but that's an idea.
Yeah, okay. We're spitballing a little bit here at the end of the show.
Yeah, just goofing off.
I love it.
I love the politics of things.
It is. It's fun to look into. Yeah. That's why, fun fact, next Wednesday in between our two shows is our 1 year anniversary.
Of doing these things?
May 14th.
That was our first one?
Yep.
Wow.
So we're almost, it's been a year of diving into this stuff. Any takeaways from doing this for the last year?
Not today. Next week I'll have a takeaway.
All right, that's fair. I'm jumping the gun on that one.
Yeah, you are.
We'll prep for that.
Sounds good. All right. Well, really appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Let us know if there's a special guest or anything a topic that you want covered. We'll dive into it for you.
We'll still obviously cover state stuff, but with the legislative session wrapping up now, maybe on Thursdays, don't expect the heavy-handedness of the legislature that like we've had over the last few months, but we'll still have for sure be covering statewide issues.
Maybe we'll talk about stuff going on in Dunseith, in the state.
Maybe we'll have to see what we've talked about, what we've dug up recently up there.
You've been digging?
Yeah, I go metal detecting.
Wow.
That's crazy.
We found some gold.
Well, platinum maybe.
Platinum? Getting pretty close.
We're getting there. It's
nice.
Yeah. So
dude, there's been some interesting conversations had.
That's a good way to put it.
So
make sure to keep your ears and eyes open for that. Make sure to follow along with us for more announcements on our June 17th mayoral debate that we are going to be having. That's another huge one. Make sure to follow for updates on next month's June election and for all things Minot, North Dakota.
Sounds good. We'll see you next time.